Hi and welcome to what some are already calling the internet equivalent of Gus Honeybun's Magic Birthdays. It's ChinnyVision. Outrun, of course, a massive arcade hit, fantastic graphics, great sound, and that famous sit-down arcade cabinet, and if you had the deluxe version it moved as you steered. I don't think that much introduction is needed really, and of course it was a candidate to be ported to home systems. I'm going to start off on the version that I had when I was a kid. Got it for my birthday, must have been March 1988 I guess. Got Space Harrier and Outrun at the same time, and Space Harrier was of course by Elite, Outrun was by US Gold, and interestingly Outrun came with the cassette of the arcade music in the case. Starts off promisingly, got some nice Mode 0 graphics on the Amstrad here, and the Outrun soundtrack, so you're hoping that this screenshot here you're seeing is how the game's going to actually start. Yeah, it looks really like an authentic arcade experience. Imagine that on your Amstrad, with the music playing and those graphics and all the people standing around, just amazing. So we've got a menu screen. We've got options for keyboard and joystick, and you also change the traffic level as well, so it changes the difficulty of the game. And it's loading from disk, loading stage 1. This is a multi-load game on the Amstrad. Luckily I had the disk version. And we start. Suddenly got a green road and no spectators at all, no one starting you, and off we go. And the car looks authentic. The graphics are colourful. The game is, however, incredibly slow. I'm just going to struggle here trying to change up. There's no gear indicating, and the only sound is a horrible beeping when you corner. Seeing the first car there, the first other car, trying to get past it, managed to hit it there. Just forwarded it on a bit. Now I've managed to get up to second gear, and on the wider section of road, the cars jerk towards you. There's no real sense of speed in the game. As the road splits, we're going to go on to the second stage, and it's so Spartan, so slow. And if you looked at a screenshot of this, just static, I guess you'd think it was quite authentic, but it's when you come to play it, it's just slow and laggy and just a little bit, not ugly, it just doesn't have that amazing look that Outrun had. The car looks nice enough, but why haven't they used a grey for the road, for example, instead of this horrible green? It kind of works. The entire thing has the feel of a game that is completely and utterly unfinished. When I got this game, I felt pretty cheated. I played it and played it and played it because I loved Outrun. It's not one of the best races on the Amstrad. It feels rather shoddy. You never got a load of trucks by us on the road. Then suddenly it's like driving down the M4. It's a real letdown on the Amstrad. Perhaps the Commodore 64 can offer some better gameplay. So we start off on the Commodore 64 here. This is the menu screen you get. You can select your soundtrack. There's only 2 available. So we've got Splash, Wave and Magical Sound Shower. So we've got 2 of the 3 soundtracks from the arcade. And it actually does play when you're driving, which is a massive advantage over the Amstrad version. Oh dear, this horrible stripy road is flashing. Oh goodness me. It moves really, really fast, but the problem is that it's hard to react to what's going on, and things scale towards you so quickly. There's no smoothness in the scaling either. It's all very hard to control and all very hard to react to. And these horrible stripes on the road, well, they give you a sense of speed, but unfortunately they're just slightly annoying. That said, it's a better game than the Amstrad version. But it still feels unfinished. It always crashed. Well, at least you get that in the Amstrad version. There's no crash sequence. You just hit something and just get moved back to the middle of the road. And on to stage 2 here. All the colours here on this level are really horrible. The road's just this horrible greeny, stripy colour. Why? And it's nice to have the archways over the road, but they do look pretty rotten, I must say. But it's still better than the Amstrad version. It's at least trying to capture the spirit of the arcade, even if it does feel like a game that probably needs another month's worth of coding effort on it. One thing about the Commodore 64 version is all the other versions I've seen have the road split at the end of each level, so you just drive on to whichever level you want to go on to next. On the Commodore 64, that doesn't happen. You just continuously go on. And there's one very important fact pertaining to that, in that because that happens, you've got a fraction of the level choice that you have on the other versions. Because on the other versions, you can go one way or the other way at the end of level 1, then either way or level 2. So you've got all these permutations that you see on the famous map at the end of Outrun. On the Commodore 64, there's just 5 stages, and there's no choice in what 5 stages you play. It's completely linear, which is a letdown. US Gold did rush this to market for Christmas 1987, and I think a theme we're going to see through all the versions is it's a game that is pretty much feels unfinished. This level here, level stage 5, doesn't even appear to have a road. It's like desert, really. It's all the same colour. It just doesn't work very well. You've got the lines of the roadway very faint, and that's it. And of course, stage 5 is the last level, so we should be coming up to the end of the game now. Here we are, and that's taken about 5.5 minutes to complete. Well, to be fair, that's something the original arcade version suffers from. I've used a cheat there, by the way, to get that far. Yeah, on the Commodore 64, they've tried, but it's a game that desperately needed more programming time, really. Over on the Spectrum, and it's a multi-load like the Amstrad version, similar menu to the Amstrad converted by Probe, and here we've got a monochrome version of the Amstrad game here. Interesting to see how fast it actually moves, because the Amstrad version is sluggish. It's still quite sluggish and slow to respond, but nowhere near as bad as the Amstrad version. You have got the music here on the 128K Spectrum, and you've got the horrible beeping sound effects as you corn that you've got from the Amstrad version. It's not too bad, actually. You can pass the cars at close quarters there. A little bit more speed on here, and it wouldn't be bad at all. You've got the undulations up and down as well, like the Amstrad version. It's a little bit difficult to see because of the way the roads are drawn. There's not much draw distance here, and the Amstrad version suffers from that as well. As we're on to stage 3, there's more sprites on the screen as scenery changes, and there's lorries now, and the game's slowed down a fair bit, and it's really chugging along as I go past these lorries, which is a shame. I guess they could have probably cut back on some of that scenery so it just moves a little bit faster. Again, this is a game that just feels like it just needs another month in development. There's potentially a good game here, but it's just been rushed out. The AY rendition of the Outrun music is pretty decent, although you can't select it like you can in the Commodore 64 version. That's a nice sequence there as we've just spun off. Yeah, it's a game that's been rushed out for Christmas 1987, what can I say? Over to the MSX, we've got a colourful version of the Spectrum graphics here, probably ported across from the Spectrum, converted by Bedrock Software, a company I've never heard of. So perhaps they've converted the Spectrum version across the MSX here, we'll soon see. For some reason, as the text came up on the screen there, the background has turned all red, I don't know why. And I'm not sure if this is a conversion of the Spectrum actually, because look, at the start here we've got one road. We don't have the two roads running side by side. Possibly some of the sprites are being converted from the Spectrum, or the cornering's horrific. Oh dear me. Oh, this is horrible. You go around the corner, it just jerks around the corner there. Corners aren't continuous, they just jerk. The car feels like it's jerking diagonally, straightens out and then jerks diagonally again. AY rendition of the Outrun music. Oh, this is a joke. Oh, dear me. You see, the graphics aren't bad for the MSX. At least you've got a red car sprite, although that goes slightly amiss when you spin. The graphics themselves appear to be ported from the Spectrum, but this appears to be different code because the road layouts are different and the road handling routines are different from the Spectrum. And also, the handling on the main car is so sluggish. You pull hard to the left and I try to swerve around those cars there. You just can't do it. The car doesn't respond. It barely turns. Music restarts every time you crash, which is slightly annoying. But yet you got the red car sprite there. Here, this could be good. Again, this is a game that just a little bit more effort, lads, and you could have had a decent game here. The scaling for the hill sections, when you've got cars in front of you, they suddenly appear to go further away from you and then come back towards you again as you go over the brows of hills. And these tiny windmills here on level 2 by the side of the road, they look like something from a gnome garden. And the handling really becomes a problem on this narrow road here. When you've got the wide sections, it's not so much of a problem. Well, it's still a problem. But on these 3 lane sections, and you've got cars going around either side and things you can hit on the side of the road, combined with the poor handling, the cornering is just the absolute pits. It's terrible. This isn't a game for MSX owners to get excited about, I'm afraid. Well, it's a car crash. Now, if you like me and you read computer and video games, you would have noticed small adverts for the Sega Master System in the back of the magazine in the mid-80s, and it was being sold by Mastertronic, and it listed all these arcade games, and it was going to be arcade quality and all this brilliant stuff it was promising. So let's have a look at how Outrun was on the Sega Master System. Starts up, and oh, this is a relief after the MSX version. It's smooth, it's colourful. Let's push start and give this a go. The screen you get in the arcade to select the tunes there, all 3 tunes available. And we're starting off properly there with these... Well, I thought we were starting off properly there. As soon as you actually start to move, the entire all the spectators disappear. Bit of a slightly rubbish rendition of the music, actually, it has to be said, despite the fact you can choose them all 3. You don't get the 2 roads side by side, I noticed. So here we are on the 5-lane section. Will we get to see any sea or anything exciting like that, like the arcade? The music, it's a shame really, it could be so much better. But that said, it's actually much more like Outrun than any of the versions we've seen so far. Today you wouldn't really play this over the main version, but back in 1987, 1988, 1989 with your Master System, this would have been the best rendition of Outrun on the 8-bits, certainly. You've got a crash sequence, you've got all the tunes, even if they are a bit beepy. And it's got much more the feel of the arcade. Overall, not a bad port on the Master System, really. So, looking at the home versions of Outrun, which is the worst and which is the not terribly bad? Well, we started off with the Amstrad CPC. It looks the part from a static screen, but unfortunately it's sluggish and half-finished. You can say the same about the Spectrum version, really. That's sluggish as well. It plays better than the Amstrad version, to be fair, and at least you've got music, which the Amstrad version doesn't have. The Commodore 64 version plays a bit better than the Spectrum and the Amstrad versions, but critically, it's a completely linear experience. You can't choose which level you want at the end of each stage. So there's 5 stages and that's it. And once you've played it all the way through, there's no more to see, unlike Outrun on the other versions where you can choose a different route every time you play. The MSX version, well, the handling of the car is absolutely awful. It just doesn't respond. Combined with that awful cornering, it's a complete letdown. It's one occasion where you'd actually prefer a full specky port on the MSX. The Master System version is the best of them, really. It would have cost considerably more when it came out, and yet it falls massively short of the arcade experience, but at least it's trying, and it would have been the best home 8-bit version back in the late 80s. But what was worth a play then really isn't worth a play now. But if you're going to play Outrun today, you're better off perhaps playing it on your Saturn with that 50 frames a second version we saw the other week, or just loading it up on your home computer on MAME.